This is probably one of the most powerful testimonials as it relates to doing nothing in your 3D world, taking no action besides doing your imaginal work and imagining and living in the end as if it's already happened. All right, let's go ahead and jump right into it here. Okay, so some 15 years ago, Mrs. M and I purchased a lot on which we built a 2-story building for our office and living area. We left ample space on the lot for an apartment building if and when our finances would permit us to build more. Okay, so all those years we were busy paying off our mortgage, and at the end of that time had no money for the additional building we still desired so much. It was true that we had an ample savings account, which meant security for our business, but to use any part of it for a new building would be to jeopardize that security. Okay, so they have enough money for their apartment building, but they want to use their imagination. They come across Neville Goddard and they want to practice this, and they don't want to jeopardize their security money or all their savings for this apartment building in case something goes wrong. But they come across Neville Goddard's teaching that imagination creates reality. So, and they continue right here. But now your teaching awakened a new concept, boldly telling us that we could have what we most desired through the controlled use of our imagination, and that realizing a desire was made more convincing without money. We decided to put it to a test to forget about money and concentrate our attention on the thing we desired most in this world, the new apartment building. With this principle in mind, we mentally constructed the new building as we wanted it, actually drawing physical plans. Okay, so they start drawing physical plans. They're actually preparing this. They're scripting it. Like if you were going to make a video or a director was going to make a movie, he's actually going to script this out and actually put everything into place before they actually go into their imaginations and really draw this thing out and create it really well to use for their imaginal acts, okay? And they say it right here, okay? So we could better formulate our mental picture of the completed structure. So they're developing this before they go into their imagination and create it, okay? So never forgetting to think from the end, in our case, the completed occupied building. We took many imaginative trips through our apartment house, renting the units to imaginary tenants, examining in detail every room and enjoying the feeling of pride as friends offered congratulations on the unique planning. We brought into our imaginal scene one friend in particular. So they're using somebody in particular, someone they're familiar with. So they know their voice, they know what they look like, they know what their facial expressions are. And you notice that they're walking through each individual room in this apartment building. So they're actually visualizing this and making it real. They're thinking from it and not so much of it. Okay, so they're making it real in their imaginations, walking through it, creating somebody that's very personal to them, that they can actually make it real. Okay, so this lady they're using for their imagination, their imaginal act, is a lady they had not seen for some time because she had given them up due to their believing in the law of assumption, and she found it to be peculiar in their new way of thinking. So in their imaginal scene, they took her through the building. So they're walking this person through the building and asking how she liked it. Okay, so hearing her voice distinctly, we had her reply, "Doctor, I think it is beautiful." So they're having this person actually communicate back to them. They're hearing the joy and the excitement from this person that they're creating. She's saying, "Doctor, I think it is beautiful." So they're walking in their imaginations with their friend through the apartment building that's not built yet, but it is built in their imagination. So they're walking through the apartment building with their friend, and their friend is saying, "Doctor, I think it is beautiful." Okay, so one day while talking together in our building, my wife mentioned a contractor who had constructed several apartment houses in our neighborhood. We knew of him only by the name that appeared on signs adjacent to buildings under construction, but realizing that if we were living in the end, we would not be looking for a contractor. So they're literally living in the end here. They're literally living in the end and thinking this way. Okay, so why would we need to find a contractor if this building is already completed? We wouldn't. So that's what they're going off here. They're actually taking no action whatsoever. They're letting everything come to them and allowing the building, and really just testing the law itself to like the extreme. Like they're really testing the law. They're living, they're imagining, just being in the end result, actually to the extreme, just not taking any action and living in the end. Okay, so continuing these periods of daily imagining for several weeks. So they did this for several weeks. Every night before they went to bed and during the day, they're doing this. Okay, so for several weeks, we both felt we were now fused with our desire and had successfully been living in the end. Okay, so one day a stranger entered our office and identified himself as the contractor whose name my wife had mentioned weeks before. And this contractor, in an apologetic manner, said, "I don't know why I stopped here. I normally don't go see people, but rather people come to see me." He explained that he passed by our office often and had wondered why there wasn't an apartment building on the corner lot. We assured him we would like very much to have a building there, but that we had no money to put into the project, not even a few $100s it would take for the floor plans. Okay, so their imaginal acts and their living in the end is what has created this thus far. This contractor is very successful, and he even stated that he never goes and sees people. They always come to see him with ideas and pay him for his work as being a contractor. But for some reason, he drives by this land and he always wonders in his mind, he's wondering in his mind why there is an apartment building there. It's a perfect place for one. So what this is doing is creating this man or this contractor to think this way. And he has come to them now with this idea and saying, okay, so I don't know why I'm here. I don't know why I'm doing this. People usually come and see me, but I'm here talking to you because I think a building should be put. But they're sticking with their imaginal act. They're living in the end. They even tell him they don't have the money, even a few $100s for the floor plans to even begin. Okay, so they're sticking with their guns here. This apartment building is already built in their imagination. So they're not reaching for anything. They're actually even turning him down. They're saying, nope, we don't want to do this. We don't even have the money to do this. But their negative response did not faze the contractor. But seemingly compelled, he began to figure and devise ways and means to carry out the job, unasked and unencouraged by them. Okay, so forgetting the incident, we were quite startled when a few days later, this same contractor called, informing them that plans were completed and that the proposed building would cost us $30,000. We thanked the contractor politely and did absolutely nothing. So the contractor actually even comes back a few days later and says, okay, so I got everything done. We can put this building up. It's only going to cost you $30,000. I'm getting everything prepared. But they say politely, they decline. They say, no, we don't want to do that. They're going to do absolutely nothing at this point, living in the end, because why would they agree to this if the apartment building was already completed? Okay, so we knew, or they knew, that they had been living imaginatively in the end of a completed building, and that imagination would assemble that building perfectly without any outside assistance from them. So we were not surprised when the contractor called again the next day to say he had found a set of blueprints in his files that fitted our needs perfectly with a few alterations. This, we were informed, would save us the architect's fee for new plans. We thanked him again and still did nothing. So the contractor even comes back. He comes back again and says, okay, so forget about the $30,000. Forget about my fees. I found a blueprint that will work for you with a few alterations to design and build this apartment building. But they still did nothing. They're living in the end. Then they know that it will be accomplished as long as they're living in the end and imagining themselves walking through this apartment, that it has to be done with no outside assistance. Okay, so this is a good point right here. Logical thinkers would insist that such negative response from prospective customers would completely end the matter. Instead, 2 days later, the contractor again called with the news that he had located a finance company willing to cover the necessary loan with the expectations of a few thousand dollars. So the contractor comes back. He says, okay, so no fees on the blueprints, no fees for me. And even having the building put up, he already got approved for a loan that they could actually just agree to, and the building would be done and they could pay it back later. Okay, so, and it sounds incredible, but they still did nothing. They're living in the end. They say, nope, we don't want to do this. We don't want to have any part of this. We're living in the end. This is already complete, and we're living in the end. For remember, to us, the building, okay, to them, the building is already completed and rented. And in their imagination, they had not put one penny into the construction. The balance of this tale reads like a sequel to Alice in Wonderland. For the contractor came to our office the next day and said, as though presenting us with a gift. So the contractor comes back again. What is that, 5 times? The contractor has come back. You people, this is what the contractor says. You people are going to have that new building anyways. I've decided to finance the balance of the loan myself. If this is agreeable, I'll have my lawyer draw up the papers and you can pay me back out of the net profits from the rentals. This time we did do something. Okay, so after all of this, after the contractor comes back and says, I will cover the loan. I will get the financing done. I will do all of that. And you can pay me back from the profits from the apartment building in the future. And that will be fine. So now they're saying this time they did do something. They signed the papers and construction began immediately. Most of the apartment units were rented before final completion and all but one occupied the day of completion. We were so thrilled by the seemingly miraculous events of the past few months that for a while we didn't understand the seeming flaw in our imaginal picture. But knowing that we had already accomplished through the power of imagining, we immediately conceived another imaginal scene. And in it, this time, instead of showing the party through the unit and hearing the words, we'll take it, we ourselves in imagination visited tenants who had already moved into that apartment. We allowed them to show us the rooms and heard their pleased and satisfied comments. 3 days later, that apartment was rented. So immediately they started another imaginal act. Now that this one is successful, they started immediately and conceived another imaginal scene about tenants actually living already in the apartment building. Okay, so and 3 days later, the apartment was rented. So this is working every single time for them. They're seeing the results from it. They're actually applying it and they're doing it. They're actually scripted all of this and they're actually really putting in the time in their imagination and really designing this well and living as if the end is already completed, that the apartment is already built. They already have tenants now. And our original imaginary drama had objectified itself in every detail except one. And that one became a reality when 1 month later, our friend Mrs. X surprised us with a long overdue visit, expressing her desire to see our new building. Gladly, we took her through, and at the end of our tour, heard her speak the line we had heard in our imaginations for so many weeks before. And with emphasis on each word, she said, "Doctor, I think it's beautiful." You remember that when they created the imaginal act originally, they used Mrs. X as part of it, as part of creating that feeling that it was already done, that they were living in the end. And now this has actually happened. Everything has come into fruition. And in closing, they state, our dream of 15 years was realized, and we know now that it could have been realized any time within those 15 years if we had known the secret of imagining and how to live in the end of desire. But now it is realized. Our one big desire was objectified, and we did not put one penny of our own money into it. Dr. M. I absolutely love this story. All right, so I'm going to give you a brief recap of all the points of interest that I think that you should use if you're trying to practice this type of exercise. And that is, one, they did this, they scripted it, they actually prepared everything in detail prior to actually going into their imaginal acts and visualizing all these things. So they prepared a script. They prepared a script of what the building was going to look like. They corresponded with each other and created this in detail and actually created a close friend of theirs or somebody they haven't talked to in a while, stating to them certain things like, wow, doctor, this is beautiful. And these statements that are being spoken to them as they're walking through the apartment. And they're actually walking through the apartment, each room, and looking at the details of the rooms as they're walking through, making this very real. And the second is they did this for several weeks. This is a very big project. So something like this, not doing anything, not taking any action and allowing it to come to you, I do believe that they could have sped up the process if they would have agreed to the blueprints, like paying the $30,000 after the contractor came back the second or the third time, sped up the process a little bit, but they were testing the law. They were testing the law here and just assuming this. But you can speed up the process and take a little bit of action if you want, if you see it right in your face. The contractor coming in, the contractor even stated that he doesn't go see people. He doesn't go see people, but rather they come and see him. So that is a good sign for me if I was in their position, that I would say, okay, let's go ahead and do this. Let's go ahead and jump on this. I'll give you the 30,000 to begin and do all of these things. But if you're testing the law, you really wanted to see that, you could just play it out and keep living in the end. And eventually it's going to happen, but you can speed it up. But if you want to do the no action, it's going to take a little bit more time, but it will be done in its own natural way. And number 3 is you notice what they did as soon as the apartment building was solidified. Everything was done. It was being built. Everything was signed. They was ready to go. They immediately worked on the next thing, which I think is a very, very good point of interest. Move to the next thing. Always be imagining the next. Be visualizing the next accomplishment in your life. Don't stay fixated on one thing. Don't allow that to pass. Take that momentum that you've built from the first imaginal act, the thing that you created, and those new beliefs that you've cemented into your belief system with your visualization and that detail, and use it for momentum for your following venture. All right, guys, that is the end of the video. I love you guys very much. And don't forget to leave your comments, questions, or concerns in the box below, or anything you want me to look at and use for content in the future. And remember, the scammers in the comments, if someone replies to your comment and they say that they're me and they're impersonating me, and they say, contact me at the specific number, or Snapchat, Telegram, or WhatsApp, that is not me. Just report them. All right, guys, I love you guys very much, and I'll see you guys in the next video.